I want to thank the organizers and the contributors who made it possible for me to be here. This was a wonderful opportunity, and I think maybe the biggest student here. I'm learning an awful lot. One of the reasons I'm learning an awful lot is that I have a doctorate. Let me explain that. When I was an aspiring grad student, we had a very wise librarian, and she said, "Do you know the definition of a PhD?" I said, well, not really, although I'm trying to get one. And she says, well, it's someone who learns more and more about less and less till she or he knows everything about nothing. And I tell this story often in circumstances when I'm working with people who have little formal education, and they greatly appreciate it. I'll be talking a little bit about having to pass on information to people who need to know. A story I'll be talking about tomorrow was a drought in 2005 that affected a lot of people in the Southwestern Amazon. And the next year, people were asking, was it going to happen again? Are we going to be hit with a bad drought? And I said, well, you're going to have to learn about what's happening in the southern Atlantic, and if it's an anomaly of temperature, and if that anomaly is high, then you better get ready. And I was thinking, boy, how their world has changed, where before they were wondering about planting, and now they have to start thinking about processes at a regional or global basis. And so I've been asked to give talks and to help community leaders in various parts of the Amazon to understand the water cycle. And one of the things that I've found been important is to work on invisible things. And sometimes we start off by that, well, are invisible things important? Isn't a glass of water much more important or a meal than some sort of concept? But then you say, what about love? What about solidarity? What about some other things that are invisible? And you think, that's probably important. And so one of the tasks is getting them to think about making things visible. In this case, before a talk on climate change, we put a bag over a plant, and we do this with people there so they see it and they get involved in the scientific process, and we actually put in a bag that has no leaves, and then halfway through the talk, or at the end of the talk, we go outside and we say, wow, look at all the water that's condensed. And they sort of say, this is interesting. And typically this is done in a forested area, and then I say, imagine all those trees and how much water is coming out. And it's like watching clicking going on in the minds. Because the other thing is, because I'm often talking to leaders in communities, they are for the most part smarter than I am. Otherwise they would not be a leader. And so they catch things a lot faster than I would catch them. And so that's part of the process. Well, there's another process, is how do they make the link between what happens outside their immediate area and them? And so how can you explain the deforestation distance, 1,000 kilometers away, could affect their lives? And this is, just to give you an idea a little bit, we have what is an aerial river, or a river in the air, intertropical convergence zone to be part of this. And it brings water in from the Atlantic. Just to give you an idea, this is Acre, this is where I call home. And so we're downwind, and some of the water goes back in the rivers, and it gets recycled, and some of it gets recycled. So how do we get the idea that things that are that far apart could affect people here when they've not accustomed to seeing maps like that? But they've heard the names of Pará, they've heard the names of Mato Grosso. And so we do play acting. And I would like to ask for some volunteers. Typically I ask for volunteers. Everybody who does not want to be a volunteer, please take a step backward. And it's just amazing how many volunteers you get in that circumstance. But In this case, would anybody, I need someone, is there a singer in the house? Or someone who sings? Would you like to come? We need somebody who has lungs and is able to project. We also have need for 3 trees. Now, who here has a soul of a tree? Okay, if you come up. Anyone else? Could be a plant, could be algae, it doesn't have to be a tree. 2 trees? Do we have a 3rd tree going once? Twice souls, the 3rd tree. And we need somebody who lives in Sao Paulo. Do we have any Brazilians here? No Brazilians. An Argentinian would do. And okay, Adam, you look like a candidate, please. Okay.
I was after him.
So, here's the situation. You are the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? You are a tree representing a forest in Pará. Another 500 kilometers away, you're another tree in Rondônia. Both these areas have had active deforestation. You are in Acre or in the upper PURUS. You're a tree in a remote area at the end of the line. And you are wanting to drink water in urban São Paulo. And so, the first task, the wind flows this way. So can you emit water vapor in that direction?
A lot of water vapor?
A good amount of water vapor.
Here comes the water vapor.
Okay, the water vapor comes in. Ah, yes, these are your roots. These are your leaves. It rains here. Part of it goes back. Come up through the roots, and it comes, but keep blowing. But now it comes up this way. It comes down, goes into the roots, comes up, it comes over here, and down, and so, and then here, it takes the turn, comes down to São Paulo, and they have something to drink. Okay. No, we're not done yet. Okay. Now what happens? We cut down the tree and put grass. I'm good at that. Yes. But now you're a grass. And your grass is about that high. And it's the dry season. So the wind comes over, it goes down, and part of it runs back. Actually, a lot runs back because the roots aren't very deep. And then you're kind of wilting. Yeah. So now you're here, you're a tree, but there's less water coming this way. And you're kind of getting a little shrinky. Okay? And you're kind of wondering a little bit what's happening, but you really don't know. And here, maybe there's a little less water. Next cycle, you get cut down into your cattle pasture. No, not that. We have not ended the water cycle. We've modified the water. So you're right here. That's it. And so, you can get the idea that this is cycling, but the cycling part is getting reduced, particularly in the dry season. And it is at the end of the dry season when bad things happen. Fires, death of vegetation, and so on. And this comes down, and here you are. You're still a forest. You're great. But you start to notice that something's different. You're not getting as much rain as you thought you would be getting. And so you're sort of like this. Maybe you don't want to transpire as much as you used to. And here's what's happening down. So this is the story which I try to get across to people who are smarter than I am, but have less knowledge on this specific thing. And then they teach me other things. Okay? So I want to thank you for this demonstration. I want to show what happened after this. Okay. So thank you. A hand for all this. And what's the kid, right? Did they do a good job? Yeah. Okay, so you're seeing the same process here in the upper PURUS Valley in Puerto Breu. Okay? And in this one, which was a year later, after they've been exposed to it, they say, hey, we want to make, we're starting to understand this, and we want to send a message out. We're a little, set of communities in the Upper PURUS, but there's a COP20 meeting in Lima, and we want to get this message out. And so what they did is they sent a statement, and I'll just read it very quickly. On June 20th, 2014, in the border town of Puerto Esperanza, province Purus, of the Republic of Peru, 75 representatives from 32 native communities, Kashinawa, Mastanawa, Charanawa, Ashininka, Colina, Chananawa, and Amwaka, and representatives of public and private institutions met to participate in the workshop on climate change in order to hear, perceive, know, and analyze the issue of climate change and its challenges and possible solutions. We, the representatives of the indigenous communities of the Purus Province Climate Change Workshop, express the following. We recognize climate change as an ongoing process that we are experiencing in Purus Province. In particular, we are feeling increased heat, increased flooding, increased disease, increased agricultural pests, increased variability of seasons, winter, summer, decreased wildlife, declining fish, decreased food. We recognize that climate change threatens our area rich in biological and cultural diversity. We express our priorities for action plans in the next year, 5 years, and in 50 years. And it goes on in detail. For those who are interested, I can pass on this information. But one of the things they taught me about is, we want to do something, maybe we can. And so there's a phrase from Henry Ford that seems appropriate about addressing climate change. If you think you can, or if you think you cannot, you're right. So I leave that as the last comment on this. Thank you.